The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
Well, like we have another word of the month spewed by the malpractice media and the Democrat Party. They always give us new words to educate their followers, and this month, it's quid pro quo. That's right, folks. That is where somebody says, hey, you do something for me and I'll do something for you. That's never happened in the government ever until now, because Donald Trump is an evil man. And that's why they've had to include that word in their lexicon next to those other words like impeachment and inquiry and collusion. You see, they throw out a new word every month or two or three. That way it's to educate their followers so they can regurgitate this nonsense to the rest of their little comrades. And they do. All the little lemmings who listen to them, they go and take that putrefaction and disgorge it amongst their brainwashed little friends. And then they go and do their other thing. And it's all made for TV galama-free. Like a toilet session after drinking Mexican water. These are the days of our lives.
Congratulations on the 70th, everyone. That was really something very amazing to watch.
Last week on the days of our lives.
So there were three waves of concerns expressed by Ukrainian authorities, including the prosecutors and other officials.
And you want to talk politics, call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest.
It lays out about 8 violations of the United States Constitution.
They said, you have no authority, you're not the president. The president said, I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion.
House Democrats make identity of whistleblowers secret. They want the Ukrainian whistleblower to not testify in person. They're scared of something. They're scared that evil Donald Trump might hurt them. So they want to give a written statement. They think that's okay. So they're attempting to conceal a person's identity. And we're supposed to accept that as the American people. How are we supposed to judge this person and their credibility? And while all this is happening, the smear campaign continues in its tried and true tactic that doesn't have to be based on any truth at all, as we now shall hear from the Wicked Witch of the West herself.
If you want to talk politics, call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and if they see it's reported in the press that this, and this, so they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic.
So the queen of the Comrade Party openly admits it, that all they're doing is a smear job to destroy their opponent, who in this case happens to be Mr. Donald Trump. Now, the malpractice media won't reveal this to you. No, hell no. They are witting accomplices in the smear job. If you are their political enemy, They can and will slander you and destroy everything they can to the people who are standing in their way. So the little no minds that we were talking about before, why they don't see this, I don't get it. Let me play that audio clip one more time so you get it.
And you want to talk politics, call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and if they see it's reported in the press that this, and this, so they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic.
Nancy Pelosi openly admits this is their modus operandi. And the malpractice media doesn't report it, doesn't tell you that they're doing this. No. If you didn't watch C-SPAN that day, and it just happened to be caught on camera, you'd never know it. The lies and their irresponsibility of how they're reporting these things are leading to events like we just had in Minneapolis. Of course, we had protesters there burning MAGA hats. Remember a few shows ago I was talking about the little green shirts? I may have misspoken. The green shirts are part of a larger coalition called the Rainbow Shirts. And that is what was there at this so-called protest where they were burning MAGA hats. Just to put this out there for you who are paying attention, wasn't it the Nazis and their little other sections that were burning books back in the day? And I guess it's not the same thing burning a hat, but it is kind of when you're burning things in protest of something. Now, police used pepper spray in intense hours after Donald Trump's rally over there in Minneapolis. According to news reports, supporters and protesters clashed Thursday night outside the Target Center after a rally for President Donald Trump. See, it wasn't protesters and people who support Trump. If the protesters didn't go there, then nobody would have had any problem with anything, and the Trump supporters could have went in, had their good time, and left. And it wouldn't have been a big deal. But people got to protest everything these days, even though when you really look at the First Amendment, when you have a protest, you do it against the government. Unfortunately, you guys don't understand that Donald Trump isn't the government, nor is Nancy Pelosi or any of that. They are people inside the government. So you shouldn't be able to go to their little rallies and give them a hard time, or their supporters a hard time. Now you can go in front of the White House or the Capitol building or your state legislature's house, because those are government buildings. And that's a great place to protest. But you see, people who go to these rallies to protest, the people going to the rallies and the people holding the rallies don't understand freedom. They're going there to cause trouble. And we can see that because some threw urine in the streets. Because that is a proper way to protest in the United States from intelligent and thoughtful people. There were small fires that had to be extinguished as well, because again, they were burning hats in protest of a person, not the government. If they think Donald Trump is the government, they're wrong. If anybody thinks Donald Trump is the government, they're wrong. Nancy Pelosi's not the government. None of those people are. They're inside the halls of government, but they have a private life themselves. And when they are involved in something that is not policy-based inside a government building of some sort, leave them alone. What's the big deal? You don't want people going to your rallies and causing fights over there. Although we don't hear that as much, do we? We don't hear that MAGA supporters or alike run over to rallies just to protest because someone is protesting something on the left, be it some LGBTQXYZ thing or some women's rights thing or some whatever they consider minority rights or some illegal alien rights or whatever the agenda of the day is. We don't hear, on the level of this anyways, we don't hear very often that the MAGA supporters are out there going to those rallies picking fights. Just saying. But on the other side, that's fine, because Nancy Pelosi and her party feel it's okay to completely slander a person without any truths, without any actual proof, just to go out there and slander them for political purposes. And we're supposed to think that's okay. And when she riles up people because they're not intelligent enough to see or to hear her own words, but when they're not intelligent enough to do that, they're going to go out there and protest something they have no idea what they're actually protesting, because the protest began in the afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, with various immigrant, women's, and anti-war groups assembling against the president. Now, you anti-war people out there, are you paying attention? Trump just tried to move our troops out of the way to get us out of some war action. Okay? He just did that. He also, which we'll talk about later, just signed the first phase of a trade deal with China. Did you watch the stock market? They love that, by the way. Oh, right, you don't like the stock market. That's out. Those rich people. You don't like rich people because they're rich and you're not. You don't know how to get rich. I'm having trouble figuring that one out myself. I don't hate those people for it. You always find somebody to hate. The left, who's supposed to love everybody. It's baffling, but whatever. So Trump is trying to keep us out of war, but there's anti-war groups there protesting the president. Okay. See, they don't even know what they're protesting. Women's groups, what are you protesting, ladies? Exactly. You got to take your bra off and burn them way back in the day. Now you're not taking your bra off, you're taking the hats off of MAGA supporters and burning them, and that's the new form of feminism. All right, good job, because they're holding you down for some reason. I don't know what they're holding you down for. I haven't been able to get a honest answer on that one as well. And, you know, what's funny is, where in the hell was the LGBT X, Y, and Z crowd? They must have been off doing something a little bit more LGBTQ, X, Y, and Z stuff that was important. You know what I'm saying? They were doing other stuff that, because they weren't, according to this report, they weren't there protesting. You had an anti-war group that was there, or groups protesting when Trump's trying to get us out of these things. You know, you guys don't even know what you're protesting. You allow people like Nancy Pelosi to lie to you, to slander their opposition, and you believe it. Now, am I saying Donald Trump's a clean individual? Not at all. But Nancy Pelosi, in her own words, said they'll slander a person because they're the opposition, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be accurate or anything. It's a smear campaign because that's politics these days. Now, to finish off this, demonstrators blew whistles, chanted, and drummed early in the day before gathering at night to get a little more violent. At about 9:30 p.m., the national correspondent for Fox News tweeted a video of protesters burning hats with Trump's slogan, MAGA, on it, which is Make America Great Again. At about 10 p.m., a Washington Post national correspondent posted a video of protesters going after a man, I love this, identified as a Nazi. You know, I love the reporting on this because who told him that he was a Nazi? Well, it was the rainbow shirts chasing him. I'm sure of it. Now, let me ask you something, ladies and gentlemen. A group of people chasing down a Trump supporter. Let me ask you, who's the Nazi there? Right? Who is the Nazi? Is the guy running for his life because a group of people chasing him? Is he the Nazi? Mm-hmm. But the reporting, who got the report from somebody there who probably chased the guy, they called him a Nazi, so the reporting on this from the Washington Post, because they're a credible source, says that they were chasing a Nazi. Scare those Nazis off. The one that was there. Just imagine that. There was one there, if there was one there. And they chased him off. But everybody who's a Trump supporter is a Nazi, right? Mm-hmm. After the rally, the USA Today network reporter from the St. Cloud Times confirmed urine had been thrown and police used pepper spray to manage the crowd. Trump supporters and protesters clashed at the corner near the Target Center. Again, if the protesters weren't there, there'd be no clashing at all, and it could have been a really peaceful rally, and everybody could have went home. The cops didn't have to be on guard, which cost the city extra money. You see what the protesting does? It costs more money, and then the damages that might be inflicted from there. And the protesters dismantled part of the police barricade because they are peacefully protesting, right? That First Amendment says peacefully protest your grievance against your government. They weren't peacefully protesting. They weren't doing it against the government. They were doing it against the people or a person and the people who support him. Yeah. One last thing in a companion story, because I love companion story. We're going a little long. Jane Fonda was arrested while protesting in Washington, D.C. At least she's protesting where you need to protest. But Jane Fonda didn't have enough back in the day of protesting. She's back out there doing it again after pledging to hold the weekly demonstration over climate change, because I'm sure Jane Fonda knows all the details about climate change. She was arrested on Friday as she was among those protesters in Washington, D.C. on the Capitol. At least they're protesting in the right place. The video of the actress was being placed in handcuffs and escorted into a police vehicle, and that was posted on social media. She was, she needs to get popular again. Jane Fonda, it's the 60s again all over. Don't you love it, America? Didn't you love it back in the 60s when you were alive? Or didn't you love reading about how crazy the country was back then? And here we go again. It's all the same. A repeat of history. Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going?
Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back. Does your house need a paint job, but you don't want to do it? Then call Tom at Quality One Painting. He can handle all of your interior and exterior painting needs. He gives free estimates and senior discounts. Call Tom at Quality One, 313-982-2986. That's 313-982-2986. Quality One Painting. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's better than an Islander convention.
Well, it looks like it's time to do the malpractice media's job again. Earlier this week, John Solomon breaks down on the Glenn Beck Show the timeline of the Bidens and the Ukraine story, which the mainstream malpractice media seems to be ignoring all the juicy details and is keeping you focused on the other thing. Now, let me preface this by saying several Ukrainian officials working under former prosecutor General Lutsenko, I think I got that name right, raised alarms concerning the conduct of U.S. Ambassador to the Ukraine, Marie Yanovenkovich. That name's familiar, isn't it? Well, they trotted her out this week. They say that not only was she meddling in Ukraine's domestic affairs, but she was trying to undermine the president in the Ukraine. So Trump pressed the Ukraine to remove her. And she went and cried to the lawmakers about it. Now I have to ask you, before we get into the sound bites here from John Solomon, isn't the president allowed to fire people and get rid of people who, or remove people who aren't interested in following through with his policies? He is the president. But whatever. President Trump, for more than a year, had pressured the State Department to remove the former U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine. The envoy told lawmakers in a, of course, closed-door testimony. Everything's closed doors. Why are they wanting to keep all this secret? The Democrats demanded, as part of their rapidly expanding impeachment inquiry into the president, they demanded her to come in and talk in secret behind closed doors where nobody can leak, but we got leaks from it. There's so many leaks in Washington right now. We need dear Liza to get that bucket and fill the holes. You know, what's that song? There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, there's a hole in the government, dear Liza, a hole. I don't know how to fix it, dear Liza, there's traitors and criminals. I don't know how to fix it, Liza. How do I fix it? The hole. Let's listen to a few cuts from John Solomon here.
May of 2018, then House Rules Committee Chairman Pete Sessions, a Republican from Texas, one of the most powerful chairmen in all of Congress at the time, he made a trip over to Ukraine. He came back and he wrote a letter to the brand new Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and said, I have heard some deeply troubling reports from both Ukrainians and Americans that our ambassador is bad-mouthing President Trump, and I think you should recall her. That was the first time that Ukrainians on the ground raised the concern that they saw the ambassador engaged in inappropriate behavior, interfering in investigations, that sort of stuff.
Now, isn't that interesting? How about this cut?
A few months passed, nothing happened. So the Ukrainian prosecutors under Lutsenko, the career people, not Lutsenko, the political figure at the top, but career people downstream from him, they hired an American lawyer. This is in the October-November timeframe of 2018. They went out of the way. They hired a former U.S. attorney here in the United States, and they gave him a packet of information of things that they thought were going wrong. One was the ambassador was interfering in Ukrainian internal affairs, like telling us who we could prosecute, not prosecute. Two, that Joe Biden had fired a prosecutor who was investigating his son's company, Burisma. And three, there is some significant evidence, and there's about to be a court ruling in Ukraine. This is in the fall of 18. There's about to be a court ruling that Ukraine inappropriately interfered in the U.S. election in 2016. We'd like to get all this information to the Justice Department. That U.S. attorney, a Republican, reached out to the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York and provided that information. The reason they hired that U.S. attorney was that they had tried on their own to get visas to come to the United States, and the embassy was telling them they would not process the request. They were just sitting there unprocessed. So they wouldn't reject them, they wouldn't approve them. And so they were in limbo, and so they hired this lawyer.
And if that wasn't interesting enough, listen to this fascinating information.
And then we fast forward. The third wave is when eventually Lysenko, the boss of these career prosecutors in Ukraine, the Attorney General of Ukraine, they call him the Prosecutor General, he reaches out to me and agrees to do an interview, and he says on the record what had happened, both, confirming what Pete Sessions said, confirming what the prosecutors had done in the fall, and legitimately raising concerns, which is when we have a diplomat on our soil in Ukraine, their job is not to tell us what to do in our internal affairs. It's to make, deal with American policy, but not to tell us who we can and can't prosecute on our own soil. And so 3 waves over a year, all under President Trump, all efforts to get information to the United States that they thought was troubling, and all before Rudy Giuliani ever got on the ground in Ukraine.
Now let's back that up with Peter Schwarzer, a guy also investigating this whole Biden thing.
In February of 2014, the Russians had moved into Crimea in the Ukraine. The Yanukovych government had fallen. There was a crisis. Joe Biden is appointed point person by Barack Obama on U.S. policy towards Ukraine. The buck stops with him. Literally 2 months after that fact, Glenn, his son, Hunter Biden, becomes a board member of Burisma, this corrupt Ukrainian energy company. It's headed by Zlochevsky, this corrupt oligarch who was in the Yanukovych pro-Russian government to begin with. And they pay Hunter, according to the banking records, $83,000 a month. And he takes over $3 million in total from this Ukrainian company. He has no background in energy. He has no background in Ukraine. And it's not even clear what he did, if anything.
Let's hear Giuliani right here.
Based on the statement today by a parliament member in the Ukraine, a very senior one, saying that Joe Biden actively assisted closing criminal cases into the activity of former Ukrainian ecology minister Mykola Zlochevsky, who's the founder and owner of Burisma Group. Let me tell you who Mykola Zlochevsky is. He's a major oligarch. He stole $5 billion from his people. He very suspiciously was allowed to come back. His case got dismissed when they dismissed Hunter Biden's case. He's the guy who paid the $16.5 million and the $900,000 to the Bidens, or through the well, it wasn't 16.5, it was more like 8 million to the Biden group. This guy's one of the major criminals in the Ukraine, and he's now walking around free because Joe Biden got the case dismissed. They can run away from it all they want. And Sean, I want you to keep your eye not just on China, I want you to keep your eye on Romania. Just watch Romania.
Let me ask you this.
You won't read it in the New York Times or the Washington Post, but just watch Romania.
That was Giuliani on Sean Hannity. So he's got all this information that he's dug up that the FBI didn't want to handle, because we talked about that, I believe in the last show or the prior show to that they were given information, and you heard from some of the sound bites that the U.S. was given information and nobody seemed to be interested in it. And the Ukrainian official was working against the president. Scumbag with an energy company who owns a bank, makes a lot of money. We can't find the $1.5, $1.8 billion. We even hear that Joe Biden threatened a quid pro quo the Ukrainians into firing a prosecutor who was checking into Hunter Biden's dealings. And as you heard from the sound bites, and I prefaced it all, Ukraine is trying to get us information. And they were blocked. They weren't allowed to have visas. They had to have lawyers in the U.S. handle the information and pass it on, because they weren't allowed to come here, because their visas, they weren't blocked. They weren't said yes or no. They just weren't processed, so they were held in limbo. All this information is coming out, yet it is not being discussed in the mainstream media. It's being deflected.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
out of nowhere, just has a small little press conference. And you got to love it because Trump will have all his advisors or all the people that were involved in the deal sitting around the table with him. They don't get FaceTime. You see the back of their heads when they're filmed. But he at least has given these people a chance to tell the story from their perspective because they were the ones doing the deal. And instead of, and this is smart by the president, screwing it up, saying the wrong things, he allows the people who were involved in the deal making to do the speaking. No, it's a brilliant move. Instead of the president handling it all. And it's giving other people some screen time. It is the back of their head or whatever. But at least, in my opinion, I think that's a pretty good thing. But he signs a trade deal of some sort with China. Let's hear some audio, please. He's calling it Phase 1.
Phase 2 will start negotiations almost immediately after we've concluded Phase 1 and papered it. And I think Phase 1 should happen pretty quickly. So you have intellectual property. We have an agreement on intellectual property. Financial services, the banks and all of the financial services companies will be very, very happy with what we've been able to get. And I think China's going to be very happy because they'll be served very well by these great institutions being able to go into China. And it's going to be a tremendous thing for banks and for financial service companies. Agricultural, structural issues, tremendous for the farmers. As Steve said, that's almost as good as, which I disagree with him on that, but it's almost as good as going from 8 billion and then to 16 billion, which was their all-time high, to 40 to 50 billion. So we're going to be up to 40 to 50 billion dollars of agricultural purchases, which means the farmers are going to have to work a lot of overtime to produce that much. That's the largest order in the history of agriculture, by far, by 2.5 times. And technology transfer, we'll have some technology transfer in the agreement, but technology transfer will largely be done here and also in Phase 2. So we're going to start negotiating Phase 2 after Phase 1 is completed and signed. And then there may be a Phase 3, or we may get it done in Phase 2. So you'll either have 2 phases or 3 phases.
Which sounds great, but then he says this, praising China's 70th anniversary.
I'll tell you that I watched the 70th anniversary in great detail, and it was an incredible event, and congratulations on the 70th, everyone. That was really something very amazing to watch.
Well, it's nice to praise a communist country on being communist. It's just great. But it's interesting how this deal happened at the same time Giuliani's out there on the media circus spewing out all this information, and he brings up China and a deal's made. So, of course, John has to theory craft a little. Maybe Trump's Phase 1 deal with China has partial or has a little to do with gathering evidence against the Bidens and their comrades. I think he's got or acquired even more information in his investigation. And that's how we came up with at least Phase 1. He says there's going to be Phase 2, maybe even a Phase 3. We got to take a quick break. On the other side of this, we're going to talk about a treaty Trump unsigned this week, as well as a few other things. Stay tuned, folks.
Don't move a muscle.
The John Lebang Show will be right back.
With lots of fun and excitement. Yes! Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office clean? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass.
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
This week, the Trump administration announced the exit from the Open Skies Treaty, a treaty which signed in 1992 and went into effect in 2002, which allowed 34 member states to conduct unarmed surveillance flights over one another's territory. Now, according to news reports, this could affect America's military ability to conduct surveillance of Russia and other member countries. But this also blocks Russia and China and other countries that were involved in this from flying over our territories and surveilling them. I personally think that's a good thing. Now I want to take you on a little journey here real quick, because why would Trump do this? And that's to make sure our enemies aren't having free reign to fly over our country. And whoever signed this deal, 1992, that'll tell you something. And it took 10 years to implement. 10 years to implement. And in the last 17 years, Russia and 33 other countries have had the ability to fly over our country, take as many pictures as they want, surveil us, do whatever they wanted. You see, when trade deals happen, folks, and when trade wars go on, sometimes it doesn't turn out well. See, there was trade talks between Japan and the U.S. before they bombed Pearl Harbor. See, they always try to make a deal to keep you out of war. And maybe we got a temporary deal with Trump in phase one with this China thing. Supposedly it helps our farmers, but we'll see about that. Then we have the exclusive Turkey attacking U.S. Special Forces in Syria. They're saying it's by mistake. We moved our troops out of the way and they still hit us. Turkey's not our friend no matter what our NATO alliance says they are. And they attack our forces by accident. Right after the president pulled or said he was going to pull some people out of there. But Trump also warned the guy not to do this crap, and he's doing it. Trump used to criticize Obama for the red line as we move on to political news, because we have lots to talk about still. And we don't have much time this hour. Beto O'Rourke, he's saying if you don't do the gay marriage thing, if you don't support it to the churches, he's going to pull their tax exempt status in a quid pro quo. So the Democrats can do it to churches. Joe Biden can do it to the Ukraine. But Trump, in a transcript that doesn't really show a quid pro quo, but that's the basis of all this impeachment, all this distraction in the media. That's the Daze of Our Lies, the soap opera. Trump can't do it. Could the Democrat Party be more hypocritical? Of course, then we had Trump in all this. He still finds ways to shoot little shots at his opponents or potential opponents. And wouldn't you know that the talk out there is growing about Hillary maybe sneaking in at the last moment. So he throws out a little tweet, bring it on Hillary or whatever, some kind of paraphrase, and Hillary's like, fires back a tweet, says, don't tempt me. Please don't tempt her. We don't need to let her die on the ash heap of political history, please. We also have Sanders, who says he's going to slow down on the campaign trail after he had a heart attack. So how can you out there, I mean, this should kill his support, in my humble opinion. He doesn't have the stress of the presidency yet, and he's having a heart attack. The old man who's always angry. So I say he should probably lose his support now. But will people move over to Warren, go to Biden? Right now, Warren's being set up. We're having another Trump versus a woman being set up again. So that way, when Trump wins, if they allow it to go that far, if they don't find a way to get rid of him beforehand, when Trump wins again, the country is still bigoted against women. It's a sexist country. It's racist, it's sexist, it's homophobic, even though in this country we give more freedom to all those groups than any other place in the planet. And they wouldn't have had that opportunity without this country and the Constitution. Now to change speed, folks, if you don't mind. STDs combined for record high in the U.S. The millennials are going out there and having so much sex with their regular partners, their gay partners, their transsexual partners, whoever their partners are. Maybe it's an animal partner. I don't know. But they're spreading diseases all over, just like those hippies that are trying to revitalize their lost history. It's beautiful. In this study, the U.S. saw more than 2.4 million reported cases of chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis in 2018. Although 41 states reported 1,306 cases of congenital syphilis in 2018, 70% were concentrated in just 5 states. Listen to these states, and let's see if we can't put together what might be going on in those states. Texas, California, Florida, Arizona, and Louisiana. Think about that, folks. Come up with your own conclusion why syphilis is on the rise in those states, with them having 70% of the cases in the country. The uptick is tied to higher rates of syphilis overall in those states, as well as a nationwide rate increase amongst women. 172.7% in primary and secondary syphilis between the years of 2014 and 2018. Gotta love sexual freedom for them women. They're spreading syphilis at an incredible rate, 172.7% increase. Now, despite the increase amongst women, men who have sex with men saw the second highest case of syphilis in 2018. But the report notes that rates of syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea rose among both males and females, all racial and ethnic groups across the U.S. But let's highlight this. Women are the biggest spreaders of syphilis in the country, and an alarming 172.7% increase. And the second is gay men. 1 and 2. Straight men aren't in there. Straight men aren't spreading syphilis or gonorrhea or chlamydia. Nope. And according to this, It's in all racial and ethnic groups, which they don't consider white guys in an ethnic group anymore. We're nothing. We don't count. So the people that don't count aren't spreading the diseases either. Why don't you think of that for a moment, folks? As we have to head to break, the only ones not spreading the diseases are the white straight men. Go figure. We'll be right back.
Smoke them if you got them.
Because the John Lebang Show will be right back.
After this. That's guaranteed. Yes. At Absolute Skin and Body Care, they only use the best laser equipment in the industry so that you receive the best results possible. They'll explain all the procedures in detail and answer all of your questions. Absolute Skin and Body Care. If you're looking for skin rejuvenation, laser lipo, or laser hair removal, call Absolute Skin and Body Care. They're located at 37625 Ann Arbor Road, Suite 105 in Livonia, Michigan. Absolute Skin and Body Care. Their office phone numbers are 248-305-3000. That's 248-305-3000. Absolute Skin and Body Care. You're listening to the John Lebang Show. It's huge. Now I got to tweet about it. Well, in this last segment, we're going to run through a couple of subjects before I get to my last main topic I'd like to touch on. First, chemical found in tomatoes can boost sperm quality, a study revealed. I eat lots of tomatoes, so my sperm must be on the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator Superman level. And those guys out there who don't eat a lot of tomatoes, Mom said, eat your veggies. Although that's a fruit, but whatever. Eat your fruits and veggies, and you'll have good sperm count. Ladies, feed your man more tomatoes. Find a way to get it in there somehow. That lycopene will be good for him anyways. Another survey that I just read finds that Americans, the average American that is, hasn't made a new friend in 5 years. That's because nobody's friendly anymore. How can you make friends when you're too busy on your phone trolling other people's political posts, or you're busy watching YouTube videos trolling their, or doing a Snapchat, trying to get famous on your Snapchat? Hi everybody, I suck. Thanks for watching my Snapchat. We don't do things to make friends anymore. And don't tell me that crap on Facebook and all those other social media sites are making friends, because those people are, let's be honest, folks, if you're trying to do anything as a human being to improve yourself, unless you're giving some politically driven gibberish, breast cancer month or whatever it is, we need awareness so that if you're just trying to promote your band or whatever, you can't get those people who are your friends on Facebook or wherever to support you at all. Now, they're too busy because they got to take those selfies of them every day with the filters and look 10 years younger than they actually are, and they look weird or like aliens. Got to get them filters in. That must be the most immature thing I've ever seen adults use in my lifetime, is the damn filters. Like, I don't want to look old in my pictures. Women are notorious for it. I'm just going to filter it. Oh, don't I look beautiful? No, you look like an alien with ears on. And I try to make friends all the time, to get back to the story, because I diverge like that a lot, actually. I try to make friends with people. People don't want to do it. You invite people to do stuff. You want to hang out with people. You say, hey, man, come over. Get some tomatoes. I offered that out to a bunch of people. Nobody wants to widen their base of friends. So this study, I think, is pretty accurate. Now, in our final news item of the hour, I'd like to bring it back home to Michigan, if I may, because Michigan State University bans racially
culturally or ethically based costumes for Halloween. They say culturally inappropriate versus appreciation when students are selecting a Halloween costume. They want to ask themselves, or they want you to ask yourselves, do you belong in that group of people? Can you believe this is coming out of Michigan State University? I mean, I can believe it. But they're telling you you're not part of that, so you have to let them be segregated from you. You must segregate yourself from them. You can't be a brown face. You can't wear a gypsy outfit if you're not a gypsy. If you're not a cowboy or an Indian, you can't be a cowboy or an Indian. So you know what? You know what you should go to Halloween as? Yourself. I mean, Halloween is every day. You've got piercings and red hair, and you wear the fake makeup on the eyes. Just go as yourself because it's Halloween every day for you anyways. They say if you answer no, then it's racist. If you wear something that's not culturally yours. So let's say you wear a Habib, or maybe you wear a bombing jacket, a bombing vest. You can't wear that unless you're a Middle Easterner, because that would be racist. So only Middle Easterners can wear a terrorist outfit, because that would be sensitive or insensitive to the terrorists. And you can't walk around as a hobo or a pimp or a prostitute because you are not a hobo or a pimp or a prostitute. So that would be insensitive of you to want to dress up as one of them. You can't have fun. And don't dress up as the clown because you know what? Those clowns are sensitive and we don't want to hurt those feelings. Now, if you want, you can dress up as the president and make fun of him all the time because that's not insensitive because he's not culturally or racially associated at all because white straight men have no association and aren't important. So if you want to put on the orange hair and go out there and make fun of the president for Halloween, it doesn't matter if you're black or white or green, you're from the Middle East, you're from Asia, China, which is kind of the same thing. You could be from Mars, and you can dress up as Donald Trump or maybe some MAGA supporter. That's okay. I mean, you might get beat up if you dress up like that. Some person might mistake you for an actual MAGA supporter and take your hat off and burn it. And then you'll be upset because, you're tender inside. You're soft. And you might get, and you'd be like, no, I'm one of you. I was just making fun of the president. And they would be like, we don't believe you. You're a liar. You racist. To continue with the story, as I bring myself back from that moment of ranting, it doesn't matter if get up is humorous or sexy. So if your costume is humorous or sexy, that's racist because it is offensive to use those people's human elements. Can you believe this out of a university? The racist content coming out of Michigan State University. Those people. Boy, if I said those people, I'd get the hate mail all day. And I wouldn't even have to tell you who those people were. I could just say, those people, and here we come the hate mail. As we continue, for the sake of bringing us laughter or making us feel more exotic, don't wear those humorous or sexy get-ups unless they're of Donald Trump. These are people's lives. They are not stereotypes. According to the University of Michigan, or Michigan State, They can't take off their costumes. I wish they would. Most of them are wearing it daily. You can walk up to the grocery store and you go to buy something. Somebody's got one of them septic rings with boogers hanging off of it, 10 layers of makeup, drawn in eyebrows because they shaved off their eyebrow. I don't know why they do that anyways. And they have orange, green, and black hair. And then they go on to say, how would you like it if someone turned you into a costume? Please. If you're looking for a costume idea for this Halloween, may I suggest the John Lebang costume? Real easy. You get an old suit jacket, you wear your favorite shirts, you slick your hair back like Steven Seagal, you shave sometime. You don't have to shave, it's okay. You get a beer belly, and then all you have to do is rant at the party. And I'd be quite happy with that. So I don't have a problem with you turning me into a costume. And this is the third year MSU officials pushed the program on students in the weeks ahead of Halloween. The board offers numerous examples of hypersexualized racism, like women in two-piece Native American costumes, as well as other costume fails depicting Mexican and Japanese cultures that should be off limits. So ladies, we don't want you to look cute in that geisha outfit. Just that you can't, that's racist. You're a racist if you're wearing geisha, if you're wearing, what is Native American, really? I was born here. I consider myself Native American. Is it racist for somebody to want to dress up like John Lebang? Probably not. It's also racist if you wear sombreros and mustaches, Nazi gear, Rastafarians, illegal aliens, Middle Eastern attire, and any other racially, culturally, or ethnically based costumes are no-nos. The poster claims it's also racist to dress up as Jay-Z, Beyonce, Kanye West, or Kim West. Now, according to MSU, students should understand that cultural inappropriation involves Western appropriations of non-Western or non-white forms. So, you see, white people have no race. They're not a race. They're nothing. So you can go ahead and wear whatever you want of a white person. And that carries it the condemnation of exploitation and dominance. How nice, ladies and gentlemen. Michigan State University, who says those people, calls everything that is associated with Halloween racist, unless you're just wearing the devil outfit. I wonder if that's racist. I guess, ladies, you can be a sexy devil, but maybe not, because that would be racist or bigotry or something against demonic people or demons or extra spiritual creatures. And with that being said, we've got to get on out of here, folks. Thank you for tuning in. I'd like to thank all of our affiliate stations as we've run up against this hour again. I can't believe these hours zip on by. Please go to our website, www.jlebang.com, and until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, I'm John Lebang, thanking you for tuning in.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,